We're joined now by the Shadow Work and Pension Secretary, Liam Byrne. Liam Byrne, there you have it. You're opening the door to regional benefits and regional pay bargaining.
No, what we've said is that we think a local cap would work much better, because what we want, I think, is a very clear signal in every part of the country that you're better off in work than you are on benefits. And we all know that the reason that the government has set one single national cap at about £26,000 is because there are very, very high levels of housing benefit in some parts of London. But in other parts of the country, levels of housing benefit are often not that high. So we just think that if you want to introduce the measure of a cap, which we think is a good idea, if you want to send a signal that you're better off in work rather than on benefits, wouldn't it make much more sense to have localised caps different in different parts of the country? Because, as we know, there are different levels of housing benefit in different parts of the country.
Just before we go back to the cap, can I get it clear? Are you still against any kind of regional pay bargaining in the public sector and regional benefits in the public sector?
We're against regional pay bargaining, but remember that we already have this very big element of local differences in the benefit system. In fact, we've had it now for nearly 70 years. If you go back to the Beveridge report published in 1942, Beveridge recognised that there were big differences in housing costs in different parts of the country, which is why today we have different levels of housing benefit in different parts of the country.
That's housing benefit. Let me ask you this. Under your scheme, would the London cap be bigger than 26,000?
Well, what we said is that we should take politics out of this, and we should have an independent commission, a little bit perhaps like the Low Pay Commission, that could look at a couple of different things. It could look at making sure you send a signal that you're better off in work rather than on benefits. But yeah, we'd also want to look at transitional arrangements like perhaps what Ian Duncan-Smith was hinting at this morning, to guard against homelessness, because we know, as we discussed a bit earlier on this week, if you throw 20,000 people out of their homes, then that is an awful lot of disruption for children, and of course someone has to pick up the bill for that homelessness.
But could the cap be bigger in London or not?
Well, look, in theory, different levels will result in different parts of the country. But
so could it be bigger?
I think it should be. Well, I think you'd ask an independent commission to draw up the answers to that question.
So you can't tell us?
No, I think you should get some proper experts to look at the question rather than have politicians sort of pluck an arbitrary figure out of the air.
All right, let me come on to Mr Hester's bonus. Let me just clear, is it Labour policy that Mr Hester should receive no bonus whatsoever?
Well, we certainly don't think there should be a bonus at this level, because...
No, I understand, but should he get no bonus at all?
Well, I think bonuses might be appropriate, but certainly not a bonus on this kind of scale, because you've got a situation now in Britain where, take this week coming up in politics, big week in British politics, you've got the government being very relaxed about giving this whacking great bonus to bankers, but in the welfare reform bill they are resolute about taking away vitally needed benefits for cancer patients. Now, that just sounds like a very wrong-headed approach to responsibility.
So should the government step in and block the bonus?
Well, under these circumstances, yes, I believe that would be appropriate.
But can I just remind you, if you think that the government should do that, that the last Labour government of which you were a part, it refused to nationalise the bank. Instead, it agreed to an arm's-length arrangement that left the board the power to determine the size of the boss's bonus. Now, you'd have to rip that agreement up to do what you now want.
I don't think so, because last year in February, George Osborne came to the House of Commons and he said that the level of remuneration and bonuses should be linked to progress being made on lending to small businesses. Now, here in Birmingham, what the small business community says to me is that very little progress is being made on getting money out the door in much-needed credit facilities to the small business community.
Now, I understand that, Mr. Byrne. We haven't got much time, so you're going off at a tangent now. I want to get to this point. Your government agreed that bonuses should be established by the board. You now want to rip that up, and the government itself should interfere. If you did that, what would happen if the board walked out?
Well, look, the government owns the majority of RBS on behalf of you and me and other taxpayers. The government should be saying to the board, look, we helped put this board in place because the taxpayer owns the company. Surely you must see that a bonus on this kind of scale is just not appropriate right now, particularly as there appears to have been very little progress being made against the key thing that we said was important, which was getting the lifeblood of credit moving for small businesses. So the government has got to make a choice this week. They can't have, on the one hand, a situation where they're being really relaxed about these big bonuses going to bankers, but on the other, resolute